Hello, everybody. It is the me, Game Penguin 21, and today, oh boy, looks like it's time to talk about this. Now, recent interesting developments of this situation have been going on for a bit because I thought that last year was the end of this, but earlier last week, Bluedrake decided to come out with some more interesting news. Now, what exactly am I talking about here? Well, to me, in an effort to more talk about, say, generalized drama rather than just specifically salt content, I decided to take a look at this situation between both Big Fry TV and Bluedrake 42. So, what happened? Well, recently, anyway, Bluedrake 42 has been on the warpath. This warpath is very, very, very long and very kind of annoying because I did actually defend Bluedrake 42 back in the time when his copyrights was being infringed upon by another individual. I think that was kind of the tipping point where everything kind of domino affected into this, but we'll get into the specifics in a little bit here. To go over the history of both Bluedrake 42 and Big Fry TV, let's talk about each of them individually. Bluedrake 42 has been on the platform, I think, since like 2007. I don't know the specifics of when he started making content, but he has been around for a long ass time. So much so that I think he's had the same microphone the entire time that he's been here, i.e. it seems to be a Razer Kraken headset, as well as someone who has used that exact headset for years and has recently switched over to a Bear Dynamics. Those headsets aren't great, and you can tell the microphone quality difference in those two, as well as my microphone quality difference. Regardless, he's been around for a long time. One of the OGs, as it were. Big Fry TV is also a pretty big OG, recently getting popular because he was very critical of... Critical? You know what I mean. He was very critical of people making asset flips on Steam. And also Bluedrake 42 does the exact same thing, calling out devs for being very, well, scummy in their practices. Ironic considering the current situation. But what's also interesting is that both of these creators also have their own games in the works. Bluedrake has his Operation Harsh Doorstop, which is apparently releasing out of early access, congratulations, as well as a free-to-play sort of Roblox-esque type shooter, I guess. Now, what I mean by Roblox-esque is it's not really a game. It's more of a platform to create mods and things on top of. I've played the game. I've played a little bit of the game. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was the most grandiose game in the world, but I mean, it's solid foundation that can be built upon. I'll go into the more specifics of it later, but to kind of go over to Big Fry's takes here, while I do disagree with him on specific takes, mainly in the fact that he's excited to pay $100 for GTA 5, which I vehemently disagree with, respectfully, it's still majority of the fact that Bluedrake is calling out all content creators in his content, but he specifically has been beefing with Big Fry, which is ironic, again, considering that he was defending Big Fry not too long ago when Big Fry was a much smaller YouTube channel, which is quite interesting. Again, the game that Big Fry is also working on, I also played the demo for that. It's called Transients. I have a full review on there. I thought it was a good, again, solid foundation, and I could see the vision. I just wish that there was a bit more to it in terms of the demo. I also wish that there was a bit more in terms of when the game was actually going to be releasing. But that's more of a personal thing, and we're not here to talk about Transients. We are here to talk about the current situation. So we're going to have to, unfortunately, start at the beginning here because I don't think that I have a full video on this, and if not, it's been a while since I've actually talked about this, so it's more to refresh my memory as well. Let's get started here. So initially what kind of kicked this whole thing off was Bluedrake retweeting Big Fry TV initially all the way back in, I believe that this was 2024 of last year. I don't remember the specifics of it, but I know this has been going on for a while, where Bluedrake himself was talking about how he being not paid by Delta Force. I doesn't have the sponsored videos lined up, not sponsored tweets or streams, at least initially. Now, there was actually some leaked DMs from Bluedrake42 saying, I'm gonna leave this up for a while. You spend some time thinking long and hard about the next thing you want to quote tweet of mine, Big Fry TV. I'm not scared of you sending your goon fans after me, unlike other creators. Now, I won't say that either of these creators are necessarily bad, at least at this stage. While yes, I do think that Bluedrake's currently a little bit kind of going stir crazy from the fact that his thing isn't taking off and that there isn't the revolution that I think that he thinks that it is, which you can have pride in your game. I'm not saying that having pride in your game is bad, just that know that people will be critical of your game going forward, just like how people are critical of even Roblox at this point, which you yourself actually compare your game to, which not a bad comparison, but again, you want it to be more of a platform here. But moving on to the retweet of that retweet, we then have Big Fry coming in here saying that there is DMs with no context, with the timeline basically being that on the 15th they reached out for a deal that was going to be a post on the 19th, but that they were restructuring on the 19th, and due to the fact that he still wanted to release the video, he merely edited out the sponsored segment and still wanted to cover the stuff in there. Again, usually sponsored segments under the FTC guidelines follow a very strict code of conduct. Now, to be very, very, very general, as I don't know the specifics here, because I don't have any sponsorships as far as I know of, unless someone signed my name for some reason and just committed identity theft, but the FTC regulates that you should always make sure that the link to the actual thing is being disclosed at the top of the whatever description, and it should be very apparent that this sort of thing happens. One other thing that's interesting here is that YouTube tends to have a sponsorship checkmark. This sponsorship checkmark is usually found in the every video that you have where it says that it has a paid sponsorship segment. This is also for transparency in YouTube skates. Not everyone actually ends up clicking that button, but the majority of people who are very, quote, ethical in this context, as you would probably put it, usually click that sponsorship to say, hey, there's a sponsorship segment in this. There's also usually links at the tippy top of the description, not necessarily just underground and a lot of stuff where maybe like socials and things would be. No, I'm talking top of the description that usually has a sort of blurb along with the link or some sort of code. This is always been followed by everyone that I can tell, and Big Fry himself follows this to a T from what I can tell here. In the responses to this actual retweet, we have Bluedrake coming in with an, I'm going to let you incriminate yourself for a while. I'll wait until you make a video. If you make a video, I'll make a response. Keep posting more details about your contracts, though, please. With Big Fry then responding with, please inform the class what I've said that incriminates me, Blue, please. Saying, if you make a video about me, I'll make a video about you. That's the deal going forward, man. And saying that, yeah, that's what I thought. Attention starved. With the then response later being saying, I didn't accuse you of being attention starved, but I think Bluedrake was. Not accusing, you know what I mean. I mean, Big Fry was accusing Bluedrake of being attention starved. Anyway. When you came into my comments a few months ago accusing me of FTC violations, which I will go into that in a little bit after I'm done reading this. Crazy how you hate it when people do that to you, and then you make them make the video coward, show the fans who you mean. With the person asking about what video he's talking about, but then talking about the retweeting of this, saying that he's trying to resist the urge to make a video, which he did end up making the video, by the way. I'm not going to go over any of those videos because they are like 32 hours long and I don't have the time in this video to talk about it. But Exan comes in with I think is a very fair critique saying, time to put you in a mental hospital, you need help, my dude. I agree. Bluedrake does need a fair amount of help here. Now, what exactly is he talking about when he's saying that he was being accused of FTC violations? Now, Big Fry TV, talked about a situation with SCP-5K. I'm going to leave the tweet up right here so you can actually read verbatim what he specifically said. But to quote, to boil it down to the bare essentials for time's sake, Big Fry was talking about, Big Fry accused Bluedrake of not disclosing his investor's stake in a company by Black Site Limited and SCP-5K. Now, what does this mean? Well, Bluedrake allegedly had some sort of stake in the actual company of Black Site Limited, who was making SCP-5K. He made exactly 2-ish videos on the company, or the game itself, talking about how good the game actually was, and nowhere in either of those videos until rather recently, when they were edited, at least in terms of the descriptions, was it ever made clear that he did at the time have some sort of possible major stake in the actual company for this disclosure. Now, when it comes to investments as opposed to, say, contracts, that's a little bit different, as I would say that there's a difference there. But I would then point to the fact that T. Martin, as well as one other content creator, was also talking about, say, CSGO Lotto, which both of them did actually own or had a majority stake in at the time of them promoting the thing, and they got a lot of shit and backlash for it. So I'm fairly certain that in this context, it replies the same here, where it might not be ethical 100% for him to be saying, hey, I don't have a majority stake here, or I do have a majority stake. It was unclear as to what exactly would transpire, but it was made clear that both of these were not disclosed at the time of the recordings, makings, and editings of these videos, and was only recently disclosed due to Big Fry and other people talking about this situation. Now, Bluedrake did respond to this, inevitably saying that he's sure whatever you want to believe. I'm literally getting married today. I don't have time to deal with these stuff on the internet. Please don't, as I usually do. You all are lucky with the time you are getting married for me. Which I find interesting that, yes, he is and was actually getting married at the time, with Big Fry then making a meme about this, where essentially he was talking about how he was getting married to his longtime, I guess, fiance. I'm not too certain up on his personal life. That is none of my business, but congratulations for getting married. I hope you two are having a lovely, lovely marriage and time together. You deserve your happiness. Despite the fact that I am critiquing you, I do believe that you're not a bad person. It's just that your game isn't as great as you think it is. It's a great game, don't get me wrong, just that there are some major problems with it. I'll go into that in a little bit here. But then we also have some people talking about the responses here, saying, thank you, think everything that following after the bottom of this video is relevant and odd. You didn't show the rest of it, which again, I find interesting. How there was still more to the conversation that seemingly happened to go by here. And with him talking about manipulating DMs and how there was very little, if anything, messaging-wise, it was very strange. Again, not really much else to add to the conversation here. Where Stalwart Nightmare still coming back in saying that, and still, again, in this context, seemingly trying to defend Big Bluedrake at the time. This was, again, months, if not about a year before this initial controversy tended to happen. Now, again, I'm not going to read this whole thing. The basic gist of it is that he thinks that Big Fry TV was publicly violating, gets and talks about how Bluedrake was publicly not disclosing FTC violations, while Big Fry not being called out for being a bigger offender, despite the fact that, again, saying like, oh, Big Fry looking bad for making this video in the sense of here's a ChatGPT summary. I don't really want to trust that at all. I saw the video. The initial video was that Big Fry basically just spouted off the same thing that he said in the tweet. That initially there was talks for the video to have a sponsorship segment. However, those talks fell through initially, and the video, still wanting to be released, just had the sponsorship segment and the other stuff of that segment edited out of the video, as the contract was not finalized or signed at the time. Now, later on, the contract was signed and filed, and that next video did tend to have an actual sponsorship segment, as well as sponsorship links according to the FTC guidelines, as well as, I think, maybe had that check mark as well, but again, regardless of this, what ended up happening so far. Now, I did say that I would talk about Operation Harsh Doorstop, and I think that I did make a review on Operation Harsh Doorstop back in the time when it was still in early access, as, again, it was a free-to-play first-person squad-based shooter, and overall was okay. And generally speaking, I wouldn't call it a bad game, just that it was lacking in some cases. I may have not stated this in the original video, but I think that what Bluedrake is going for is a quote top-down approach. You can quote me on that for what that means. Now, what do I mean by top-down approach? Top-down approach is basically if you think of a pyramid and how your pyramid is your community of various people. At the bottom of the thing, you have your casuals. These are the people who will play your game casually, maybe 1 to 2 hours a week, maybe 1 to 2 hours a month, etc. These are the people who are not super highly invested in the community, but still want to participate because they like and appreciate the game and the vision of which you have. Next, above that, you have your hardcore guys. These are the hardcore people, usually in the smaller niche and are smaller than the actual people who were initially casuals and will possibly play your game 2 to 3 hours a day, maybe more, depending on how the game itself is based on this. Above that, you have your modders and your pseudo developers. These two types of individuals kind of go together where they are the ones who are producing and making the content for the game. Now, again, this usually only applies if the game has modding tools in the first place, as I tend to go over, I think, in that initial review. If it's on the channel, I'll link it in the description. I'll also link the transients review if you want to go and see that. But overall, the game itself then has, the community itself then has the developers and the community managers at the very tippy top and stuff like that. Now, what do I mean by top down? Top down, it means that you have the initial draw of the game is to get that more hardcore audience, specifically for the developers and modders, which is what I believe Bluedrake was trying to push when he was initially creating the marketing and the videos for this game. He has very specifically continued to say that our game that we are producing is for creators and people to create games. Roblox does the same thing. However, I think Roblox is special because it does the same thing, but is also what I would call more of a, quote, star child. This is a different thing entirely because I usually use bottom up, top down, and star child, where star child does from both sides. Bottom up goes from casuals to the modders or the developers side, and top down goes from the developers to the casual side. This is usually how I describe specific UI changes, operations on other stuff, where say for a top-down, the utilitarianism of the casual gaming stuff is suffering because they want to focus more on the developer side to make the dev tools as good as possible, whereas the bottom-up mentality is more of just trying to make a good casual experience while also then focusing on the dev experience after the fact. Starchild does it from both angles, where they make a good dev experience but also make a good casual experience that is easy to get into. Again, to use just standardized examples for all three of these, top-down, again, Operation ARP doorstop, easy example, what he's pushing. Bottom-up is ironically and oddly enough VR chats, which, yeah, I know comparing the two is like just fucking apples to oranges, but it's the general way of which they try to create the game for people. And Roblox, again, is that, quote, star child. The star child is not the rule, but it is the exception. Anyway, that whole explanation out of the way, what has recently happened to Bluedrake to make me make this video? That is this tweet right here. Bluedrake42 says, a warning to every content creator when our update for Operation Hearthstone stops drops. If you have taken over 10,000 USD in payments from studios we compete with in the last 12 months and don't disclose that in any review you create about our game, then you and I will have legal problems. You aren't independent journalists, you are paid contractor for our competitor, and I'm tired of watching you get paid off to do hit pieces on games that don't fork you cash over. I will post more warnings to clarify this as we get closer and closer to the release stage, but TLDR, if you're going to just post fake content attacking gamers that don't pay you off, then quite frankly, I don't want you covering our game at all. Wow. I don't really know what to say to that. Again, saying that they are not, quote, independent journalists and they are, quote, paid contractors from our competitors is rather vague and also rather just kind of a burn notice. This is going to definitely burn a ton of bridges because this right here is kind of insane. Why? For several reasons, actually. Saying that a person is a paid contractor when they have a sponsorship contract is quite different from two different things. A paid contractor is mainly someone who gets some sort of, I guess, salary from that, and I think that there is a difference there. Saying that, oh yeah, you've taken a $10,000 in payments from these people. Well, what if they do it via affiliate links? Or what if they do it via something else that is actually completely and utterly fucking different in that context? Overall, like, you don't have any specifics on here, and the only specifics that you list off is taking $10,000 for 12 months. Well, so if I take 9,999 USD within the last 12 months, I'm free, and I'm not actually a contractor, and I'm an independent journalist. That doesn't make any sense. And I know that I'm being very nitpicky and pedantic here for obviously comedic reasons, but you have to ask these questions when you're talking about legalese such as this. While sure, you might say that they're not, quote, independent journalists and are, quote, paid contractors, there is, I guess, some sort of a difference there. But again, this would then be retweeted and talked about via Bluedrake 42 here, where there was a clarification in the contract and the context of this, saying how it was genuinely mind-blowing to see so just every creator is aware. When he's talking about specific competitors, he's talking about things such as Squad, Delta Force, Battlefield, Arma, and any realistic/semi-realistic FPS. So what? Does that also include if I took, say, a sponsorship from Ultra Kill for whatever reason, and then just didn't disclose that I took money from them for some reason, or I accidentally forgot to do so, or whatever? That makes me a bad person, I guess, because that is a semi-realistic FPS if you think about it. What if I took a sponsorship from, say, The Finals, which is also a, quote, semi-realistic FPS first-person shooter type thing? Saying that it's any realistic/semi-realistic FPS does cover a very wide margin of games. Everything from, I think, specifically Escape from Tarkov, all the way down to, again, The Finals, and maybe even a couple other places. If you're talking about specifically, say, tactical FPSs, where you have to have a specific list of requirements in order to be considered a tactical FPS, then sure. But here's the dumbest part of all of this. It's just stupid to even go after these people in the first place, because once those videos are up and the contract is then made, don't you think that they have other things to do and they only took it from them that one time? Like, it's weird to me how he says within the past year, if you don't disclose this in every single video that you are a part of, when you're talking about our game, that you're bad and you're not an independent journalist. I don't get this. The specifics of this is very strange, and I think that Big Fry here tends to put it the best, saying pre-threatening creators with legal action if they've taken a sponsorship for another FPS in the past, that according to him is their, quote, competition, is fucking crazy. And I agree. It is fucking insane to even have this conversation in the first place. Now, I'm not huge into YouTube sponsorships or anything like that, but I do know at least some of the basics here, stating that most, if not all, contracts usually have some sort of time limit of where they have to create the video, make the video in a specific time frame. The video has to be released on X date, and it has to contain at least X amount of numbers for this, that, and the other thing. All of that is legalese that I do not understand, because I am definitely not big enough to have any sorts of sponsorship contracts. But here is the biggest part of this. By basically stating that within the past 12 months, if you've taken even a single sponsorship from any, quote, competitor, that means that you are ineligible to make reviews. Despite the fact that most of the other journalists that would be covering this, the quote-unquote independent ones, would possibly actually be taking those sponsorships backdoor-wise and maybe or maybe not disclosing that. You can't prove that without getting access to legal documents that would be under some sort of privacy or NDA protection laws, which, again, that's where shit gets very fucking messy. Overall, this situation is insane to me, and I wanted to make a full video on this last year, but ended up having it to get shoved to the side to make room for other videos. So, yeah. In this year, I want to try to make myself a little bit more in the general sense and try to see if I can move away a bit from assault content and talk more about general drama that I find interesting. So we're going to try to do that going forward, so that way my videos, when I do the releasing of them, don't have like some sort of time limit to be able to be released within a reasonable amount of time. Whew. Anyway, that was a lot of information to go through, but overall, Jesus Christ. Anyway, if you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form other than a like and subscribe, which is always, always, always enough. Let me try to see if we can hit 1.5K by the end of the year. That would be awesome. Love you all to death. But if you want to support me in any other way, shape, or form by donating $1 or whatever, links down to everything in the description below. My name is again Penguin21, and a peace off.
Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know, see you later. Sometimes I just wanna be a hater. Gotta wash down the top 40s with a chaser. Your voice starts feeling like a waiter. Scraping my mind against a cheese grater. Before you go, sir, you have to sign a waiver. That's alright, I'm aware of the danger. You wanna get away, you better get in line. Won't go another day of wasting any time. I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. Got no filter, I got no filter. No